Every year I test more gear, but this year I'm being a little bit more intentional about what I'm testing. I'm not just grabbing what's trendy or what folks are talking about on Instagram, but I'm trying to find things that are either really beginner friendly or what's going to hold up on the trail. Some of the stuff I bought myself, and some of the stuff I reached out to brands and asked them to send me. Either way, everything here is going to have to earn its place on the trail. So I thought I would show you guys all the gear that I'm planning on testing out in 2026. So let's start off with a new stove system that I got. So as you guys have seen, I've been a huge fan of my pocket rocket for many, many years. But here lately on a lot of my videos and stuff, a lot of you kept talking about firemaple. And so because I really, over the last 10, 20 years or so, haven't had to look a lot for stove systems, I just wasn't familiar with as many of the brands. And so I started looking them up and looking on their websites. And I really came across something that really caught my interest. They've got a new stove out now that's in their petrol line, and it's a remote stove, and it's an ultralight stove for them. And so they're at least, in their marketing, and what they're claiming that this is the lightest weight remote stove out on the market, which, it might not be far off, because at least from my experience so far, a lot of the remote stoves that I have typically are more white gas stoves, which need to be a little bit bulkier in the systems that they have to be able to convert white gas into flame. And so most of those do have a little bit of heft to them. At least I know the one that I have does. And so this thing is pretty lightweight. Now, if you compare it to, say, a canister stove, like, say, my MSR Pocket Rocket, it's just barely going to be around the same weight. And so by the time you add in the different things and stuff for it, is it the lightest thing that you can carry? No, but I think that this could end up being one of the lightest and most ultra light stoves that a beginner could absolutely take out. And two, could be something that even you enjoy taking out. So I thought I'd just show you a little bit of this and show you my first thoughts on it. So let me get my pocket rocket back out here. So one of the things that I really kind of like about this one so far is that it's got a pretty wide profile. And, the other challenge that you have, so this stove here is actually meant to be a canister stove and not a white gas stove like some of the others. So you just kind of take it here, and then it screws on right here. And then now you've got the ability to have your stove off of the canister, which gives it a lower profile to the ground, which I think, definitely can make this thing a lot more beginner friendly. Because when you get out, for those of you that know, once you get out and you've got your canister stove out there, and you put your stove on the canister, it gets it up a good bit higher. And so then by the time you get one of your, ultralight pots and get on there, well, now you're bringing that up at a pretty decent profile. And unless you want to carry something extra to help stabilize these smaller canisters, this really has a really easy ability for it to tip. There's been a lot of times I've been out, and if the ground's not on, you're always trying to look for that perfect even spot, because I can't tell you how many times in the last 30 years where I've accidentally been in a situation where I was rushing myself, set up my stove really quick, didn't make sure it was tipped. I go to put on a full thing of water. It's a little too much. Maybe I don't set it perfectly centered or something on the stove, and next thing you know, the whole thing just falls over. And so, you end up losing your boiling water, which I know you're going to have to start back over, which if you're not close to a water source, that could be an issue, because you've just now wasted a whole bunch of water. Or if, even worst case, if you were actually trying to cook something on here, that could be your dinner now that's on the ground. And so these things can be a little bit more challenging for a beginner when you're getting out because of some of that. And so I thought that this stove now, being able to bring it down to a lower profile, would potentially make this a little bit better, because even if I took my Tokes pot now and I put it on there, so now it's a lot lower to the ground. There's a lot less time for it to be able to tip, and just makes for a little bit better of a situation. So, but while I was talking to firemaple, I also asked them, I said, why don't you also send me what you would normally pair with this stove for a pot? And so then they sent me this pot here, which is also in the petrol line. It's the petrol 63HX. So, at first glance, this thing is a little bit bulkier and heavier than, say, my Tokes pot. But now, one of the things I'll tell you, as much as I love my Tokes titanium pots over the years, I've definitely had some challenges with them, right? We all talk about how much, like these handles are really cool in the sense that they fold out of the way, they're easy to do. Like if you're just using this as a cup, it's plenty enough to be able to drink from. But one of the main issues that we always have is that as you're heating up your water, the flames come up around the pot, and it ends up making these handles really hot, to the point where you always have to have something else, either a towel, a rag, some clothing, or even I've used the pot holder to be able to get it off. And you can see here too where I've even burnt one of mine because, one time it was so hot whenever I went to grab it off, and before I could get it set down, it ended up melting the bag a little bit. So one of the things that I really kind of like about this pot at first glance is this longer handle. So now, does it add a little bit of weight to the full system and the full setup? Yes, but it's, I love the fact that it's a longer handle. It easily stores away. You just pinch it in and then push it up, and then it holds everything in place. So I really kind of like that, because I don't really get that with my setup. I have to use the bag to cinch all of this to try to keep it all together for that. So I love the fact that it's really easy to do that. I like the fact that they've added a little bit of rubber on here, so even if this metal handle does start to get a little warm, you're going to always have that ability to be able to take it off without any kind of thing on that. Now, one other thing that firemaple does a lot with a lot of their pots is they put on this heat exchanger on the bottom. And so, of course, this also is something that's going to add a little bit of extra weight. But the question is that it's supposed to make it a more efficient heat system, because it's supposed to allow that flame to be more efficient in taking and boiling that water. And so in theory, you're now exchanging a little bit of weight by being a little bit more efficient with your gas use and your flame use for that. And so we'll see whether or not that's going to end up being a good thing. I actually have not used this pot or this stove yet, but I'm planning on doing so in the next few trips that I have coming up. But one other thing too that I really like about this pot system here is the lid. And so I've always, as many of you guys have seen too, like one of the things I dislike, probably the most about my Tokes system is I hate this little bitty lid and this little bitty triangle. Yes, is it super lightweight? Sure. Does it work when you put it on there to help get the water to boil a little better? Sure as well. But I can't tell you how many times I can't seem to get this little bitty triangle to stay up. How it'll fall down when I'm trying to, and I got to try to figure out how to get it back up. And then on the lid, they also only have these really tiny holes here, which, it allows steam to come out for you to know that it's boiling, but you can't really utilize this lid to pour water out or anything if you're trying to strain water. Like, it just, to me, just doesn't work really well for a lot of that. And so one of the things that I really like about the lid here too on this is that, one, it's got this little plastic tab here. So one, that's not going to get hot. You're never going to have to worry about it getting hot when the steam's coming up, so that you can take the lid off. It stays up all the time, so you never have to worry about it falling down. And then they have also put some pretty nice size slits right here into their top, so that, to me, I really believe that I'm going to really be able to utilize this to strain out water if I want to. So I'm really looking forward to testing this thing out and getting out on the trail with it. And then the last thing that I really like about this is that you can see here on the bottom where they intentionally added in slits to where this thing will sit perfectly on any of their stoves. And so what I like about that is now it's not so unstable as we talked about before, like when working with something sitting on top of that canister stove. This now gets it in there, it gets it a little bit more secure on there, and it makes it a lot more beginner friendly. So for me, that is just super awesome. And then it also, it's getting it closer to the flame that also will help with that system there to be able to work on it a little bit better. They also sent with this stove, I don't have it here right with me, they've also got a wind break that's pretty ultralight on that. So, you know, because one of the things, just like this and just like with a canister stove, one of the things you're always going to have potential issues with is going to be the high winds. Blowing the flame a bit if you're in places. So you either have to try to find a place where you can get a windbreak and be next to a rock, or, you know, something like that to where you can naturally get a natural windbreak, or you need to put something up to be able to help with that windbreak too for it. So super cool stove. Really, really looking forward to testing this thing out. Whoa, which I also want to test out to see. I think I heard that this pot will also sit on, yes, it'll also sit on a canister stove. So that's kind of the other cool thing. There we go. About some of their pots is that they didn't, you know, they do tend to be a little universal, it seems like. So even if you did end up not liking, you know, say this stove, and you wanted to just get one of their pots potentially to work with your canister stove, it sits on there pretty well. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's see. One of the other things that I got from firemaple while I was looking at their website was their gas lantern. Now, I know you all are going to tell me, well, as much as I like to talk ultralight stuff, and I do like to try to go light as possible, a lantern is probably not something that's going to fall into that criteria really well. But you know what? It's super lightweight for it to be a lantern, and it looks really cool. And sometimes, you know, it's nice to be able to have something, you know, especially out when you're going out in the backcountry. You know, a lot of places I go, you can't have a wood fire. And so I just love sometimes to just be able to sit out around a fire. And so I thought when I looked at this, I was like, you know, this could be something that could be really good to help bring up my mood, you know, at the end of the day, whenever I, you know, settle out up in the alpine, up in the mountains, and because I can't necessarily have a fire to sit by, I could potentially have this, especially if I've got friends out with me, to be able to just enjoy a little bit more of a light and a little bit of fire system. So I got it. It's not here yet, but I'm so looking forward to testing that out when it gets here shortly. All right, next, I've got a couple tents that I'm going to be testing out this year. As you guys know, I'm always kind of comparing some of the tents that I've gotten, that I've bought, but I don't have a ton necessarily. And so because I've been talking a lot of beginner backpacking stuff, you know, and as I watch other videos and watch a lot of comments for you guys, you know, recently we did the best beginner backpacking gear video about a month ago, where you guys all have filled out a poll for me to be able to help me come up with ideas for what would be the best beginner backpacking gear. And one of the things you guys mentioned a lot on there was the Lanshan 2 tent, or the Lanshan tent. And so I got the Lanshan 2 Pro, which is the lightest version of the 2-person tent that they have. They do have a 1-person one that is a little bit lighter, but as you guys know, I backpack a lot with my buddy Moose. And so, you know, I always want to make sure that there's room for him. And so I very rarely ever get a 1-person tent. I always go with a 2-person tent. And so everybody seems to be talking about this thing. And I think this tent potentially, you know, is going to revolutionize a little bit of the backpacking systems, because not necessarily because I think this is the GOAT of all tents, but because this thing is pushing the market to make a lot of these big time companies figure out ways to compete, because this thing is really lightweight for a tent, especially for a beginner tent, and especially for its price. So I'm really looking forward to getting this one tested and checking it out. I actually have not even taken this thing out of this here soon. So here in a little bit, maybe towards the end of this video, I'll let you guys see. This will be my first time of taking it out, and I'll actually go try to put it up for the first time, so you can see just how easy that's going to be or how difficult it's going to be, and I'll give you some of my first impressions on it once we get it up for that. So super looking forward to testing that one out, and then also really comparing it to some of the other stuff. So you guys know I've put a lot of miles in my Big Agnes ultralight, the Tiger Wall ultralight 2-person tent. Put it on the Colorado Trail with me, had just done all kinds of things, and I really do love that tent. And so for me, I'm looking forward to trying to compare something like that's a lot more of an expensive tent with something like the Lanshan Pro. And so that'll be a fun thing to do as we go through the next few months here and I start getting out on the trail with it. And then one other tent that I'm actually going to be getting this season that I don't have quite yet because it hasn't been released yet is the Outdoor Vitals new trekking pole tent as well. So I've been in communication with them, and they're going to be sending me that one as soon as it's ready to go out. So I'll have that one too as well. And so I really don't know hardly anything about what that's going to be, but there's just so much gear that I like from Outdoor Vitals, and they had a really good tent that they had put out a while back that a lot of people liked. I never did get that one myself, but I saw a lot of good reviews about it from people, and I'm even seeing a lot of people talk about, like, why did you stop carrying that one? Why are we coming up with a new tent for that? So for me, it has me kind of excited to see what they're going to put out, and I just like a lot of what they do, and so I decided to reach out to them to see if I could get one of theirs to be able to test out and compare it to some of the other tents that I have too as well. So super looking forward to getting that one too as well. All right, so let's talk backpacks. If you saw my video before, I've got a lot of backpacks that I've bought over time, whether that's my own backpacks that I've got, and so I've got things that go for winter gear. I've got fast packing gear. I've got backpacking ultralight gear. I've got all kinds of backpacks. I've got backpacks for beginners that I've gotten for my boys or even myself over time. I've got some old external frame backpacks. So it's rare that I necessarily look to get another backpack. But also, I've seen a lot of comments from you guys, and I've been really kind of looking at this new company that seems to be kind of entering into the beginner backpacking world with a lot of different gear, and that's Nature Hike. And so I actually decided to purchase this backpack myself in order to just test it out and see, what it's going to do for it. And so right off the bat, when I first get it, this backpack is pretty cool. It's not much over 2 pounds. And so weight wise, this is the 60 liter or 60 plus 5 liter one that they have. I decided to get a bigger one because super secret, I might actually be giving this thing away in the future to one of you guys for that, because I think this, as I'm kind of been looking at it, it could be a really cool beginner pack. So for me, I got the 60 liter because a lot of times I think, when you're first starting out, you want to have a little bit more room, not because you want to try to fill it. There's some philosophies people say was like, oh, buy the smallest pack you can because that way you won't fill it. But, in my opinion, really, in the beginning, people are gonna pack. They're gonna carry some extra things. People, as they say, pack their fears at times. You're not as comfortable. And so for me, it's more so important that you have the space to be able to take out what you think you need to in the beginning so that you are mentally comfortable of getting out there for it. So, and two, you can't always afford the smallest and the most ultralight gear, and so you'll need a little bit more room to be able to get some of that in. So for me, this one's super cool. So I like, it's a roll top, just like a lot of other backpacks that you see out there on the market nowadays are. So it gives you plenty of room here, and then that you've got. So I can't even imagine how much. I haven't even tried to pack it. As you can see, I still got the tag on it. And so it's going to be interesting to see once I start trying to pack this to see what it's going to pack out looking like. But at first look here, I actually kind of like a lot about it. I mean, for it to be a cheap entryway pack, man, this thing looks to be pretty stable. It's got the back pocket here like most all backpacks nowadays has. It's got some side pockets here. They've got some cinch straps and stuff to be able to cinch things into it. Mesh packets. You know, they've got a decent belt system here. You know, like there's some good padding on that, you know, I think, which is good, because a lot of times in the beginner backpacking, you're gonna have a little bit more weight in your pack than you would say an ultralight system. So, you know, I think, you know, having a little bit of padding there on your hip belts probably good. You know, they've got some decent straps here. There's even some pockets here on the shoulder straps that they have. It looks like they've got some weight distribution cinches here, like a lot of backpacks do. For that, there's some padding here on the back. You can feel the frame internally too as well. Seems pretty sturdy. You know, it's one of those frames that kind of comes and it goes down, out, and then back in and down. So they're trying to minimize, you can tell, the weight in some of their framing systems. But, you know, it seems pretty decent. It's got some padding here at the base for your spine, around your hips. Yeah, I mean, at first look, you know, I think this thing looks pretty cool. You know, I think this is even better than, you know, some of the packs that I had bought from my boys in the beginning. And so, like, even if you guys saw, you know, where I kind of walked through a lot of those different backpacks, you know, I think this one right off the bat is even better than some of those that I bought them to start out with. So, you know, they may be jealous that, you know, they'll have that somebody's going to get to start off with something a little better than what they did for it. Oh, another little pocket here at the top. I don't even know what that's for. That's an interesting look. But yeah, it looks like a pretty nice backpack. So I'm going to be testing this one out. I'll probably pack it out and take it out a little bit just to kind of test it out to see, so I can give some thoughts about it on a thing. But I think this is going to be a really cool potential backpack for a beginner. All right, while we're talking nature hike, also another thing that caught my attention recently when I was starting to research and look into nature hike a lot about, you know, was their air pad. They've got a new air pad that they've got on the market that looks to be also a really cool pad, you know, for a beginner pad. It's a thick pad similar to some of the other pads that I have. And so I can't remember. I want to say this one was maybe 3.5 inches thick, at least on there. I don't think it was 4 inches thick. But it's, you know, it's a square or rectangle kind of pad. It's, you know, going to be a little bit, you know, wide. I didn't get the mummy versions of anything. I wanted to kind of get a wide pad because I think that's an important thing to have sometimes for a beginner for that. But this looks to be a pretty good comparable pad. It's a little bit cheaper than, you know, some of the other more expensive pads, even my tried and true Nemo that I have. So I'm kind of really looking forward to getting this one out and comparing it against the Nemo and some of the other pads that I have to see, you know, how well this works, you know, too, for, you know, a beginner pad for that. And then two, you know, this thing's also got a pretty decent R rating for it. And so at least they're claiming it's got a 6.5 R rating. And so for the price, if that's actually true, and this thing sleeps, you know, as warm as they're claiming, man, that's an amazing price for a pad. But we're going to have to get it out on the trail and we're going to test it. We're going to test it in some cold environments, see how well it does at insulating from the ground and other things too on that. So super looking forward to having that one out. But as you can see here too, I have not even gotten it out of the bag yet. So going to be testing that one out as we go forward into this year. So as far as bags go too, another thing to mention too, I'm also looking to test out some Hilltop pack bags. I'm in the process right now of ordering a custom made bag for a food bag to be able to have out. So I'm really wanting to test out some of their stuff. They got some really cool stuff. I really love how they can custom print a lot of bags, and so it gives you some flexibility to add some good character for us out on the trail. So I'm going to be purchasing a few of the things from them over the next month is my plan. So I'll have that for some of my summer trips to be able to test out some of those. So looking forward to testing out some of that. Then let's talk some clothing. This year, I've got a few new clothing items that I'm going to be testing out. And so one of the things that I've got here recently is the Outdoor Vitals hybrid fleece that they have out. This thing, I've only had this thing for just over a month, but I'm loving this thing so far. You can see here that it's got the fleece on the inside and then the more synthetic hybrid style stuff on the outside. And so it fits really well for an endurance or athlete type of clothing, for whether you're backpacking, for me, trail running too. I've even gotten this thing out. I took it out once to really give it a good test, and it was 20 degrees outside and the wind was blowing like crazy. We just had a big snowstorm. I didn't wear anything under it except for a synthetic t-shirt. I didn't even wear a beanie like I would normally wear on my runs. I just put the hood up and got out on the run. And I was so worried that once I got to the top of the mountain that this thing I was gonna end up being cold because I didn't take extra layers, but I wasn't. I was really surprised at how warm this thing kept me for it to be so lightweight. So this thing is just really amazing to me so far. And then I really like about one of the things I like about the fleece lining versus, say, I've gotten some down versions in the past in some of my running jackets, but it always, once I start sweating, the down gets wet, and as you know, once down gets wet, it loses its loft and its ability to kind of insulate, but then it also just becomes uncomfortable because now I've got this wet sleeve or something on in a running jacket. And so for me, the wool in this really wicks away the moisture from your skin, but it also doesn't mess up the warming ability for that, and you don't really feel it. So it's not like you're sitting there feeling like you've got a soaking sleeve or anything in the jacket. So this thing has been super awesome so far. Highly recommend you checking this out. And I'm going to continue to be utilizing it as I go through, especially through the rest of winter and the shoulder seasons as we go along. I also got from Outdoor Vitals one of their new sun hoodies. I've had many sun hoodies over the years, but they've gotten some new colors out, and I just thought it would be cool to try one of their new sun hoodies out. And so I actually took it out, just got it recently, and took it out with me on my fast packing trip I took out to Joshua Tree, out to the desert. And so I took it along with the fleece because it was still going to be cold. And so, but during the desert, a lot of times it'll get warmer during the day. And so I was glad I took the sun hoodie because it was super ultralight. I didn't mind having it in the pack. So even if it was colder and I didn't end up using it, I wouldn't have bothered, it wouldn't have bothered me having it. But it was super nice. It's really lightweight. It's very thin. To me, when you start looking at different sun hoodies, there's so many out on the market, but I really do like this one, and I really like this new color that they had. It's kind of this goldish amber, yellow color, and it just, I'm not really, a lot of times you see in these sun hoodies, a lot of these companies put out these really light colored hoodies, and I'm just not a big fan of that. I'm a bigger guy, and to me, those aren't as flattering. And so even though I get the reason why they do it, because when you're dealing with being out in the sun all day, a lighter color like white or even like light blue or some of those things, are going to do better at keeping you cool and not pulling in as much of the sun. But for me, I just don't like how non-flattering they are. And so I really did like this new color, because one, it was a little bit lighter. It's not a full darker like a lot of times I would normally buy a black or a dark blue or dark green or some of those kind of things with my my layers like that, my shirts and stuff. But this one, so it was lighter. I felt like it didn't warm up as much. It stayed cool to the touch, and it looked pretty decent. So I actually kind of liked it for that. I'm looking forward to using that over the summer as we get into it. And then also recently, I got the one of Bergen's alpha fleeces, and so I had been watching. I've got a Patagonia that's one of their ultralight fleeces that I really kind of like, and it's pretty lightweight. If I remember, I think it's about 10 ounces. So for a fleece, that's pretty decent. So it's not really super heavy on that one, but this thing man, this thing, I'd been seeing all these, everybody talk about all these alpha fleeces, and there's just, 3 or 4 different companies out there. But when I really got looking, I just like, I kind of liked the look of the Bergen. And I, also love this. This is a pretty cool color that I like, but man, this thing is really, really lightweight. I'll put the weight up on the screen because I can't remember now what it was, but it's not a lot. I mean, this thing is like half of the weight, if not more, of my Patagonia fleece, and even my fleece hybrid there with Outdoor Vitals. So at first glance, I've wore this thing around the house a little bit. I have not got it out on the trail. I just recently got it, and so I really do think this thing is really, really thin, which makes sense now why it's so lightweight. So I do not think this thing is going to keep me as warm when the temperatures are really low, but I'm going to test it out to see and see, what can I wear it out to feel comfortable with. I'm curious because I know a lot of you guys probably have some of these alpha fleeces. What temperatures are you getting your fleece out into and still feeling comfortable with it? So I'll test it out. We'll see. I'll get it out. I'll make sure. I think it's going to be a great mid layer. I think put it on top of a t-shirt. Be able to wear it when it's the sun's out and it's warmer or something, even on a cold day. And then when you need to toss a jacket, a puffy, or maybe even an extra fleece layer on top of it in order to help when it's colder in the afternoons or something for that. But I'm really super excited because this is another one of those things where like it's so lightweight that on the shoulder seasons when I'm going out and I know this, it might be like warmer during the day, but a little cooler at night at camp and stuff, I could totally see this as being something that I would toss in my bag and not care whether or not I don't use it or not, or it just be a comfortable thing to put on for camp. So I'll be testing this out over the course of this year and super looking forward to that. So that's pretty much everything that I have here for this list. There are a couple more items that I've purchased that I haven't gotten in yet, but they're just some minor things that I saw when I was looking on some of the websites for it. I did also do. You guys are going to be excited too to see. I got a wild hair up my sleeve the other day, and I kept hearing all these people talk about buying things from some of these overseas companies, and stuff that you can get, especially like AliExpress. And I totally got this wild hair and decided, I was like, I wonder, could I find everything that I would need to go backpacking on AliExpress? And how expensive would that be? And how cheap could I end up getting a full loadout of backpacking gear? And I was shocked. I actually was able to get just about everything I need to take out. And so I did a pretty big order. And you're going to be blown away at how cheap that was. But look forward to a video here in the next few months probably on that. I would imagine that'll probably be more in my spring-summer trip that I'm going to do. But I'm going to take all of that gear that I got for a really cheap price, and I'm going to go take it out and test it in the field. And so that's going to be fun to try out too this year. When we get ready for that. I've also got some cool gear giveaways coming up here soon. I'm looking forward to releasing two. We spent 30 days of you guys filling out a lot of information and sharing what you thought was the best gear, and there's so much amazing information that was shared in that video. And so I've been really researching and looking at a lot of that and trying to put that together so I can share that with you guys. And then we're going to keep collecting on that. But I think 2026 is going to be a super fun year. There's going to be so many cool things for me to test out, so many things for me to get out and do, whether that's fast packing, whether that's backpacking, or just getting out and hiking out on the trail. Now, let's go outside and set this up and see what we think. All right, first impressions. Of course, I had to try to set up a brand new tent in one of the windier days that we have here. So, which was good because that was a good test for it.
because it was a bit challenging. And then throw in also the fact that I noticed after I set everything up and struggled a little bit with it in the beginning, that my camera had turned off and wasn't recording. So whether that's fortunate or unfortunate for you guys, I learned a little bit in the first setup, and so then I set it up a second time for you guys so you could see. But I will tell you, so some of the things that I learned right from the beginning of trying to set this thing up was I really didn't pay attention to it. I mean, I'm sure there was some literature that came with it, but typical guy fashion, I didn't look at any of it. I just wanted to see, without knowing anything about the tent, how difficult would it be for me to try to get it set up. And so one of the first things I noticed right off the bat was you really need to get your stakes in good. So I started off, as I was setting it up, I decided, with it being a trekking pole tent, that I wanted to get the base set first. So I staked out the four corners first and got it going. And when I was doing that, I noticed that there's two sets of lines there on each of the corners. So there's the tub portion of it, and then there's the fly and the tent portion of it too as well. And I didn't pay attention to that at first, and so I went around and I staked in the top fly portion of it, and then realized, oh wait, no, there's a bottom portion to the tub. So I had to go back, restake the tub, and then also take the extra tent portions to put on as well. And that's where I noticed too, one of the things I really did like about this once I got it going is because once you get it set up, there's so many ways to just cinch it up good and get this thing all good and tight and taut, so that I think it would do really well. Like you can see, it's still pretty windy out here, and it's doing pretty decent at keeping up. So I will eventually have to seam seal the tent because it didn't come seam sealed. And so one of the reasons is the way they go about doing the stitching. But they tell you there's some great websites on how to do that. I will actually do a video at some point to show you how to do that, because that's something that you could end up doing on any of your tents. If you keep them for a long enough period of time, you should always, potentially have to reinforce, some of that water protection and water coating on some of your tents. So it's a good skill to have. So it'll be a good one too. I haven't done it in a little while on any of my other tents, so it'll be good to do this one for this tent too as well. But first looks, really just kind of looking at this thing, I'm really impressed. It doesn't surprise me that this tent is being talked about at such a level all across the internet about being such an amazing, beginner-friendly ultralight tent. Now, one of the things I will mention though too, when I say beginner-friendly, a lot of times I will say that a trekking pole tent is not necessarily beginner-friendly. So, because to me, if you're a beginner and you're brand new and you don't really know how to put up tents a lot, then, having a freestanding tent, especially if you're, run into a situation where there's bad weather outside or any of those type of things, is a lot easier for you to be able to get up and to be able to move or some of those kind of things. So, I will say that, yes, even though I think this is an amazing tent for a beginner to learn, especially if they're learning, to work with a trekking pole tent, sometimes that trekking pole system can be challenging. So I would highly recommend, just out of me putting it up here, I didn't get it perfect. Like, I definitely know that, of course, when I go out, I would hopefully try to find a little bit flatter of an area to sleep on. This would not be a good area for me to sleep on because of it's got a little bit more of a pitch on it than I would like. And so I would try to find a little bit better of an area to pitch it up. And then I need to start playing with it some and working on exactly how to get that the pitch and the taunt and stuff just right, because I can run into some pretty windy scenarios out there, and so I'm gonna have to play with that as I'm testing this thing out for the year on doing some of that. So look forward to kind of playing with that, but just kind of looking on the inside, not to go into much details. We'll do some of that later on. There's plenty of room in this thing. Like I said, this is a two-person. There's definitely plenty of room for me, my gear, and Moose in this to be super comfortable. For that, I like, the awning. If there's plenty of room out here in the awning space, as always, with any kind of trekking pole, with at least these, there's a couple trekking pole systems that do well at getting the pole out of the way. One of the challenges, you're going to have is the pole is on both sides, right in the middle. So that does, become a little bit of a cumbersome thing and trying to get it in the way. But I think there's enough room to be able to get around, to be able to get into the tent. So not the end of the world for that.
There's the door on both sides, so if you're actually backpacking with 2 people, you can enter on this side and on that side. You just want to be careful. Like you can see here where I just kind of pulled off one side of this in the door. I don't know that I would recommend too much about pulling both doors and opening them up. We'll see. I'll test some of that, but I think if you do that, I mean, yeah, you still have this string pulling taut on that, but you won't have the sturdiness that having the bottom part gives to it too as well. So if you were to open up both doors on both sides, I don't know how that would do if you had any wind or anything out there for it. But I do like this thing so far. There are there's some mesh portions up here at the top of the door where you can get some air coming into that. There's also some mesh portions in the corners and on the sides there where they're trying to, I think, help with some of the airflow to try to work with some of that condensation issues. One of the things I did notice right off the bat, I'm used to a lot of times with my side entry tents that they have a 2-zip system to where it zips down, but then you could also, from the top, you could zip it down in order to open up to allow some airflow in there. But I think they must have, even on the vestibule here, like I've had other tents where I could just kind of, if I knew it wasn't going to be super rainy that night, I could unzip the top portion of it in order to let a little bit of airflow in to help me with condensation and things. But there isn't that on this. It only zips down and zips up. There's no way to be able to zip down on that. But is that the end of the world? Not really. There's plenty of room in here. Height wise, I'm super happy about the height of it. I'm a really tall guy, and now I'm sitting, right in the middle, and I've got a good, 1.5 foot at the peak there above my head. And I think there's plenty of room too, on the sides, if I'm to lay down, I've got plenty of room here above my head here. Distance-wise, I'm a really tall guy. There is tons of room. Like if I scooch down to the bottom there and then lay down, I still got a good 1.5 foot, 2 foot there above my head. So super awesome. It's even got on the sides there. I really like too that they added in the little things on the side to where you can pull it out to just give you a little bit more even headroom for that. And then there's a super trick that I'll show you guys when I take this thing out one day, where you can take, and after staking that out, you can even take and put a stick in there to even pull it out even further to be able to give you even more headroom and stuff, or even foot room for it. And so it's kind of cool that they've put that in there for it. But no, this is an amazing tent for the price. I will say I've got, I love my Big Agnes Tiger Wall tent. That thing is amazing tent, and it's gotten me a long ways. But I almost question myself. I think I got that one on sale, I'm sure at REI at some point, because I try to never buy my super expensive gear at full price. But it's a $500 tent. Now, has it done me, it's lasted a long time and been on the trail a lot. Like I even took it on the Colorado Trail and did, almost 500 miles with it. And so it's seen a lot of time, and it's held up for a long time. So I don't know, like, what's this one going to do for longevity? What will it be like a year from now, 2 years from now? But I can tell you this, if this thing would have existed when I was looking at tents to try to find a good lighter weight backpacking tent, I think I would have bought this one. I think I would have definitely had this, because at the price, I mean, you can't beat the price on this. I mean, I've gotten all kinds of other, non-name brand tents, off of Amazon or other places. And I just recently bought something off of AliExpress that I'm going to test out, just test out some of the cheaper, gear that they have out there. And none of that would compare to this. Most of it is all single person or other things to it. And so this thing is super cool. So I'm really looking forward to getting it out on the trail and testing it out and learning how to work with it a little bit more. I'm sure I'll learn a few more tips and tricks about it as I play with it that I'll share with you guys as we go along. But super happy with this thing so far. So I hope this was entertaining, at least for you guys, or it was useful to see what I have going on. I know a lot of you guys really liked my Christmas gifts that I got, and I was showing you that. So those are a lot of different things too that I've been testing out here lately too for that. So tons of gear that I've got going into the new year to be able to test, and I'm just really looking forward to it. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. And as always, guys, I hope I get to see you guys out on the trail.